What are the dangers of hypnosis, and are there side effects to being hypnotized? That's probably what you want to know, and I'm going to spill the tea in this video of Confessions of a Hypnotist. But first, hey there, if you're new to me, welcome to the video. My name's Dan Candell. I'm known worldwide as the anxiety relief guy, as the stripper sign above me so affectionately says, and I'm a board-certified clinical hypnotist and also a stage hypnotist and presenter. And if you're not new to me, welcome back. It's great to have you back. And right after I record this video, I'm going to go to my favorite coffee shop and I'm going to plan in my notebook. I'm going to plan the rest of 2024 and I'm going to plan also the entire year of 2025. I'm going to plan what programs I'm going to do, what workshops I'm going to offer, the type of clients I'm going to be working with, and my marketing plan as well. And I'm so excited because I love to have a plan. But you're not here to hear my plan. You're here to find out about the side effects of hypnosis and the dangers of hypnosis. So let's get started, shall we? So first and foremost, hypnosis in and of itself is not inherently dangerous. But when you add the human factor, or what I like to call the idiot factor, hypnosis can become dangerous. What do I mean by that? Well, hypnosis is a widely unregulated profession. So any village idiot could practice hypnosis and could hang a shingle saying that they are a certified hypnotist. And anybody could read a book or not even read a book about hypnosis and say that they can hypnotize someone. A person could watch a YouTube video and say that they're a hypnotist. So hypnosis is not a widely regulated profession. And that's where it can get a little dicey because sometimes people are hypnotized by unqualified people that don't have experience, people that haven't practiced with things, people that have not had proper training. And what happens? Problems can happen when that happens. In fact, we are not licensed mental health professionals. So hypnosis is not a licensed mental health or healing modality. In fact, if you are a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist who practices hypnosis, then you're licensed. But if you're not a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, or counselor, then you cannot be licensed in hypnosis. Again, some states there's like a business license you can get for hypnosis. So some people will say they're licensed in hypnosis because they have a business license to practice. It's just like, it's weird. It's weird. But let's get back to the idiot factor. So there are some people that have no training, no qualifications, no experience, yet they claim to be able to work with people's subconscious minds. This is where it can become very dangerous because if you say the wrong thing to the wrong person, you never know what suggestions are going to stick. You never know what's going to affect that person or how it's going to affect that person. So we can come up with some problems that can happen as a consequence of that, of being inexperienced. So since hypnosis is a widely unregulated profession, how do you know if someone is qualified or not? Well, that's also a really good question, isn't it? Because you want to make sure that the person you're going to is qualified. You want to make sure they're not practicing outside of or beyond their scope of practice. You want to make sure that they are qualified to do what you want them to do, what you're asking them to do. You want to make sure they're experienced so they have a track record of success. So how do you know? Well, here are some things that you can look for. Number one, does this person have reviews or does this person have testimonials from other clients? Very easy to find. Another thing you can look for, does this person have a podcast or some type of publication or broadcast or videos where when you hear them talk about it, it sounds like they know what they're talking about. They are intelligent about what they're talking about. That's really important. And also listening to, watching videos and listening to audios or podcast is also going to help you decide if you resonate with their style because it's going to help you get a feel for their style. Also, have they done any peer-reviewed articles or journals, or do they write for any articles or publications? Do they have books? Like that one right there, or I was on the front cover of the Journal of Hypnotism right there. Have they taken training? Because even though hypnosis is widely unregulated, there are certain organizations that provide different levels of training. And by the way, every organization trains differently. They have different requirements and different regulations. So these are just some things that you want to be aware of. Here's what happens though. I'm a member of many hypnosis forums where I am more of a lurker than I am a contributor. And there are often people who just get out of basic training for hypnotists. And many of them don't even take trainings in hypnosis. They may have read a book about it, or they may have taken like a 2-day weekend class or something like that. And which gives them some insight and information about hypnosis, but doesn't really give them experience of actually working with everyday people with everyday problems. So often, people will post something like this in the forums. Hey there, I have someone that reached out to me to help them with XYZ problem. I don't have any experience with this. Is there a script that I can use for this problem to help the person overcome the problem that they need help overcoming? That's a little bit of an issue, because what happens is that person, and what usually happens often is the person has misled the client into believing that, that I'm making up words, that they have experience with XYZ problem that they're coming in for. And that can be a little deceiving, and it can also be a little dangerous. Now, I mentioned the word script, so you might be wondering, Jeepers creepers, like what do you mean by script? I'll show you. There we go. For many people, when we go through hypnosis trainings for a lot of curriculums, we get scripts, which are suggestions that you give a person while the person is hypnotized if you're using more of a traditional form of hypnosis. Now, this particular script book, Expert Hypnosis Scripts by one of my best friends, Dr. Richard Nongard. Dr. Richard Nongard, I think, is one of the most brilliant minds in both therapy and hypnosis. He has a PsyD in psychology. He's also a licensed mental health licensed marriage and family therapist, and he's also a hypnotist. And he teaches therapists how to be hypnotists. And one of the things I love is that he writes these like aids for hypnotists. He writes like tools for hypnotists. Now, there is a camp of people that are for scripts in a camp of people that is not for scripts. But I think, so scripts are like training wheels for hypnotists. So for example, which one do I have dog-eared here? Oh, developing a wealth mindset. And there is what you tell the person while they're hypnotized. There's another one, mindfulness exercise. Self-hypnosis script for confidence. So these are suggestions that you give a person while they're hypnotized. So here's another one. Hypnosis to improve stress, mood, and anxiety. So these are such things like when a person is hypnotized, again, if you're using more of a traditional form of hypnosis, use your imagination, envision a peaceful waterfall, focusing on your ability to create such a visualization. If you cannot picture waterfall, just imagine what the gentle water feels like, or even what it sounds like, focusing your attention on the moving water. I love water. And it goes on from there. And usually, and I know Richard very well, and again, he's one of my best friends, and I love the books and the processes that he produces. Usually, Richard works with metaphors. And the reason is because the subconscious mind speaks in metaphors, images, and symbols and stories. So a hypnosis script will very often sound like a creative visualization, or almost like you're telling a person a story. And their mind, it's going to sink into their mind, or that's a theory, it's going to sink into their mind a lot deeper. So how does this translate into dangers of hypnosis? Here's how. Like I said, people practicing beyond their scope of practice. So as hypnotists, we have a code of ethics where, but again, if a person isn't properly trained, they're not going to know. So that's why you want to make sure that the person has experience. So the code of ethics is that we as hypnotists, as non-licensed practitioners, because we're not licensed mental health practitioners, that we do not prescribe. So we don't prescribe or even talk about medication. In fact, a lot of clients, they say, hey, Dan, like I'm on Zoloft or I'm on lorazepam or I'm on Klonopin and I'm feeling better. Should I stop taking it? And I'm like, listen, Cupcake, you're going to have to talk to your doctor or psychiatrist about that. I can't give you any medical advice. In fact, on my website, it says in big letters, I am not a doctor and I don't play one on TV. And I'm also not a licensed therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist. And it says that right there on my website. A lot of people don't like to put stuff like that out there who are hypnotists because they want to be seen as being on an equal playing field as a psychologist or a clinical therapist or a licensed therapist. And guess what? We're not. Are there situations where I think hypnosis works better than therapy and is more effective than therapy? Absolutely, and I'm very open about that. However, we cannot diagnose people. So if a person comes in, and now just so you know, I'm getting my master's and my PhD in psychology. So that way I do have more background, so I can add a little bit more credibility to the field of hypnosis. But even so, going through my master's coursework, I just went through the course about mood disorders, and there's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, there's adjustment disorder, there's clinical depression. So if a person came into me and they start describing certain things about themselves, and I say, "Oh, red flag, like that sounds like bipolar 1." I cannot and do not say, hey, I think you are bipolar. Because then that person is going to go back to their therapist, their doctor, or their psychologist, and they're going to say, the hypnotist diagnosed me as bipolar, even though that's not what I did. So we have to be very, very careful. There's this like fine line that we have to walk. And we also aren't supposed to treat mental health diagnoses. So if a person comes into me and says, I want to work on my bipolar disorder, I can't say, come on in, Skippy, that's what we're going to do. I have to, number one, get a referral from their doctor, their therapist, their psychiatrist. I have to get a referral from some professional, some medical or mental health professional, or I can't work with their bipolar. I could work with just helping them feel happier. I could work with them on mood, and we don't even say anything about bipolar. But if the person wants me to address something directly with bipolar, again, we have to be very, very careful about that. So the other thing that can be potentially dangerous with hypnosis is pain control. There are a lot of hypnotists out there that do various forms of pain control. And again, if we're working with any physical condition, we want to make sure that we have a doctor's referral, because there could be a reason why that person's experiencing pain. And if we use hypnosis as a form of pain control and their body is trying to signal that something's wrong and we dampen that signal, it's going to cause a lot of freaking problems for that person, and then it's going to cause a lot of problems for us. Now, again, there are some idiots out there that continue to go against the code of ethics, and guess what happens? They get sent all these paperwork, they get sent cease and desist orders, or they get sent, we'll just say this, they get into legal trouble, and then it gives the profession of hypnosis a bad name. There are people that sometimes question me because they say, well, you're the anxiety relief guy. Isn't anxiety a clinical term? It can be, but it also depends on how you're using it and how you're talking about it and what you're working with. So again, I don't tell people, oh, you have generalized anxiety disorder. I don't tell people you have severe panic disorder, right? So a lot of times if I do think that a person, and again, this is after going through my master's program, this is getting my PhD, if I think a person might have panic disorder or generalized anxiety disorder, which I hate the word disorder, I don't think should be used in relation to anxiety, but that's a totally different topic for another day. If I think a person, or if a person identifies that, then guess what? I'm going to have to be very careful working with that person, and chances are I'm going to need a referral from a therapist or a doctor. Sometimes clients don't like to do that. They don't like to get referrals. I had a client that reached out to me one time and refused to allow me to communicate with their therapist or to even get a therapist referral. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't see you. I had a person that called me a little while ago, and he said, hi, I really want to come in for some hypnosis sessions because I'm dealing with a lot of psychiatric problems. Whoa. I'm like, guess what? If there's psychiatric problems, I can't really work with you. But I referred this person to my application on my website, and on my website, in the application, it asks about different diagnoses that people have. So that way, if I do see these diagnoses, I know I need to get a referral from a therapist, a doctor, a psychologist. So how can hypnosis be dangerous if people are working beyond or out of their scope of practice? Because you never know what suggestions are going to trigger something for a client. And if you don't know how to deal with what your client is bringing you, that's a problem. That's a big problem. So again, that's why you want to make sure a person has been trained properly, effectively, efficiently, and also they have experience working with that problem. How do you get experience? You might be wondering, well, if people are new hypnotists, how are they going to get experience? Well, that's a really good question. Doing what we call the big three: stress, weight, and smoking cessation. Stress reduction, weight reduction, smoking cessation. And those are like the big three that most hypnotists start with. And there, you're gonna get people that that have other issues and other problems that will come in. But through that, you're learning processes, not just scripts, processes that can be applied to other problems. So, for example, people come in that are referred to me by their therapist. They'll have trichotillomania, for example, which is plucking hair, right? Plucking the hair out. And it's a compulsion usually connected to anxiety. So what do I teach? What do I do with them? Well, before I had a lot of experience with working with people who had trichotillomania, I was very open. I said, look, I've worked with this, this, and this before, but I've never worked with trick. But I have some tricks that I think can help you. Are you up for it? And guess what? The person was very happy that I was honest with them about that. And I used the protocols that I knew would probably be beneficial. So I had them imagine going into their mind like their mind was a control room and turning down that desire or that sensation that makes them want to pluck the hair out of their head. And I had them turn up another dial of self-control and confidence. And I had them see themselves. I use what we call future pacing. I had them see themselves in the future with a full head of hair, sitting in a barber shop or sitting in their hairdresser's chair, getting a haircut and getting like a style that they want to get. Now, I know those aren't scripts. They're processes that we use. So that's like level 2 of hypnosis, is learning processes, getting rid of the training wheels and learning processes that you can apply to certain problems. And there are a lot of hypnotic processes that we can apply to most problems most of the time for most people. But again, there are some hypnotists where they shouldn't take on certain clients, because I do believe that there are a lot of people out there who do need more long-term therapeutic intervention, or they might need to even be in an inpatient facility, or they might even need to do outpatient work, or they and there are some people that take those clients on and say, I'm going to save you. And in many cases, they do. But in some cases, it goes terribly wrong. What are some other cases where hypnosis can be dangerous? Well, again, it's not hypnosis in and of itself that can be dangerous. It is the hypnotist that can be dangerous. Here are some examples. People who are not using hypnosis for this, but they will harass their clients in some way. And there are people out there who have gotten put behind bars because they have touched their clients inappropriately. But that has nothing to do with hypnosis. It is the person. There are also people behind bars who are dentists who've touched people inappropriately. There are people out there who are therapists. There are people out there who, in fact, there's a chiropractor that faced a lot of jail time because he was touching his patients inappropriately, and they were all teenage girls. And guess what happened? The teenage girls were convinced that was part of the chiropractic process. It was part of an adjustment. I have to be honest. If that happened to me, I wouldn't know, because this person has a reputation that other people have been sent to them. They're wearing anyway. So so it's not necessarily hypnosis, just like it's not chiropractic, just like it's not therapy, just like it's not dental work. It's the person. It is the person. Does hypnosis make a person more exposed to letting them be okay with the practitioner touching them inappropriately? No, not really. When you're hypnotized, you're not losing control. And again, it's not hypnosis that's doing that to the person. It's the person who is manipulating the other person. And they might be using their title, like chiropractor. They might be using their title of dentist. They might be using their title of hypnotist or therapist to do inappropriate things. Wow, this video went kind of weird and wonky, didn't it? Let's get back on track. Another time where hypnosis could potentially be dangerous: stage shows. Again, I do stage shows. And again, there's some people out there who are idiots who give dangerous suggestions for people to do. For example, I saw a hypnotist who was doing a stage show who said to the people on stage, "You're in a movie theater watching a movie, and oh no, watch out, a guy came in with a pew, 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 pew. Duck and cover, duck and cover." And this was right after one of the major school pew, pew, pews, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, how dumb do you have to be? And also, in stage hypnosis, there is a safety course that we have to take in order to get approved for stage insurance. And you have to pass this safety course in order to make sure that you're not going to go out there and be an idiot and practice dumb things and make people do really dangerous things. Like, for example, if you had a person on stage eat a lemon and think it was a peach, that used to be something that we used to do. We don't anymore because people have food allergies. So what happens if you made someone eat something that they were allergic to? They'd have an allergic reaction. They go to anaphylactic shock. That would be dangerous. So those are things where hypnosis, it doesn't have anything to do with hypnosis. It is the person practicing. So I hope you take away from this video, there are no dangers in hypnosis. It has nothing to do with hypnosis. It has everything to do with the person. Now, I mentioned side effects. Are there side effects of hypnosis? Absolutely. The side effects are extreme relaxation, feeling calm, feeling really good. And in a stage show, sometimes people will feel out of it for a little while. Now, again, there is an argument here with hypnotists. Oh, you didn't bring the person out of hypnosis properly. You didn't wake them up properly. You just said something that could have triggered them. Blah, blah, blah. No, not really. But here's what happens. When a person is hypnotized in a stage show, they are hypnotized for the better part of an hour to an hour and a half. And you are putting them through all of these mental exercises, and it's like they're getting a mental workout. If you went to the gym for an hour and a half, you'd probably be exhausted. If you went through a mental workout for an hour and a half, you'd probably be exhausted. So guess what? Yes, people are going to sometimes be very tired after a hypnosis show. However, that's why we give them suggestions at the end of the show that boost them up, saying you're going to feel absolutely amazing. You're going to have lots of energy until you go to sleep tonight. You'll be able to, as soon as your head hits the pillow, you're going to have one of the best night's sleeps they've had in a long time. Of course, being able to awaken if anything else occurs throughout the night that you need to attend to, yada, yada, yada. So what we're doing is we're making sure that the person is leaving the stage feeling safe, secure, and comfortable. That's it, my friends. That's it. As far as other side effects of hypnosis, as I said, relaxation, feeling calm, feeling comfortable. Sometimes people will, and this again, very rare situation, sometimes people in hypnosis will have a little bit of an emotional reaction. However, again, it has nothing to do with hypnosis. It has everything to do with what that person experienced before the show. For example, I had a person who was hypnotized in one of my stage hypnosis shows years ago, and I said during the I said in the beginning of the show, please do not come up if you're in a bad mood or if something bad happened to you recently, because we want to make sure that this is a positive experience. There was a person who was in the audience who missed that part of the show, and she also didn't speak fluent English. Her father was in an awful tragedy and it ended up passing away the day before that. And she came up, she got hypnotized. Now, again, I had no way of knowing this. She came up, she got hypnotized in the show, and guess what happened? She lost her shit. She had an emotional breakdown. She was dealing with all this stuff. Should have never went up on stage. But again, that's not something that was triggered by hypnosis. The same thing would have happened if she went to a magic show and participated in the magic show, and she's up on stage and all these people are watching her, and the magician could have said, oh, here's this thing, and it could have triggered what happened to her dad the day before. So those are some things where it's not hypnosis that's dangerous or that has these side effects. It's all about the person and the people. And chances are, if anything bad happens, it's either the person is practicing improperly or the person is using techniques or working with people they shouldn't be working with, or they're inexperienced, or it could also be on the other side, where the person experienced something that they might not be divulging, or they might not have talked about, they might not have thought about, and anything could trigger that person. So that's why we put certain standards in place when working with people. That's why most of the people that I work with, they fill out an application. They fill out forms before they come into my program. And even in my group program, people are filling out basically like an online intake. And if I go through that online intake that they filled out and I say, oh my gosh, this person has been dealing with this and this and this and this, I reach out to people all the time and I say, hey, I don't think this program is going to be right for you. Or if you're going to proceed with this program, I'm going to need a note from your doctor, therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist of sorts. So with that said, I know this is a sensitive topic. I usually do my best to keep my videos lighthearted and fun. This is something that I really wanted to put out there though, because I do get asked from a lot of people, is hypnosis dangerous? Are there any side effects? And again, you need to know it has little to nothing to do with hypnosis. Oftentimes it's the practitioner or it's the client. And we have to be very careful with how we're working with people, what we're doing with people, and also making sure we're working within our scope of practice. I hope this helps. If you are a hypnotist and you disagree with anything I said, that's totally fine. You can disagree. If you are a person and you're like, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for clearing this up. Can we work with you? Yes, you can work with me. I will actually put the link to apply for some of my programs down below. So feel free to reach out. As always, my friends, be well, do good, be true to who you are. Make sure you rate, comment, subscribe, share this video with other people who can benefit from it. Bye for now.